Sally, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the Parrsitivity podcast today. How you doing?
I'm good, Adam. Thank you for having me here.
No, you're welcome. It's been a while since we did a podcast. It's always an absolute blast to have you on my show. I'm really grateful to have you back. And we was chatting like a few moments ago about like topics and things, and I thought like we could kick it off with like self-discipline and like why that's important.
Yes, yes. I also wanted to put it out there that, talking to you on this podcast is bringing me back memories of the first times that we had podcast in during COVID. And just about that time, there was a time when I got into podcasting because I came on your podcast. And just now, I'm just getting that vibe of being on that first podcast with you. So thank you for being that, that milestone, that epic point in my life where you said, "Go for it, right? Go do that podcast," and then it was podcast galore, right? And thank you so much. So that's the gratitude that's coming through my heart to you right now. And yes, self-discipline is so beautiful, right? And I think looking back 5 years ago, I wouldn't be able to say that, but I can say that now. One of the most beautiful things about self-discipline is that it gets you in touch with parts of you which you probably didn't know about. For instance, if we don't, I'll talk about myself, that when I was not setting myself a time to sit down and do my work on my podcast, and I was always like, I will get to sit down when I need to, and I was doing it at different timings. There was no set point for me, right? I was just like, whenever I get time, I'll edit my podcast. Now that I have sectioned my days into Tuesday at 7 a.m., I'll get up and I'll do my podcast and then I'll send the kids to school. And that happens every morning at 7 a.m. on Tuesday. It's put me into a place where I'm much more relaxed. So, part of me that always felt unrelaxed is feeling more relaxed now. And it's opening me up to more ways of making hard things easy, right? So now I'm like, if I accomplish that goal, now that I've set 7 a.m. set for Tuesday mornings, and I can do my podcast and it's out of the way, then I can also now maybe put it to fixing something at home, like putting the laundry away on a certain day at a certain time. I realized that one of the big things for me in self-discipline was organizing myself. And organizing for myself was becoming my own manager. And that's taken away a bit of my procrastination too. So I find that beautiful that when you tap into self-discipline, it takes you into another dimension of you, which you've not even explored.
No, I love that, and I really appreciate your kind comments and feedback, from when, we first podcast and and everything that you're creating now and everything that you've done since that moment, is really tremendous. And, I think you're doing a great job. And yeah, like with self-discipline as well, you said it's quite cathartic because you've established that base where you're now more mindful now of structuring your week and putting things in place. And, when you record your podcast and those things, compound over time. You're selecting time to show up and do what you got to do, family wise, and take your kids to school, and then you've carved out, an edge where you can fit a bit of time into do your podcast, to network and do things. And I think the more you're doing that, it's almost like, going to the gym almost. You kind of just strengthening that muscle over time, and it just becomes second nature, and you're, you know, proof of that.
That's it. That's it. One of the things I did for my self-discipline, because you talked about gym, is that one of my sessions, I do 3 sessions a week. One of my sessions is Monday at 10 a.m. And I did that deliberately on a Monday because I said to myself, Mondays are always, in my life, I've always looked at Monday as something like, oh my God, it's Monday, and how am I going to face this day? And now, to get myself psychologically into a space of like, oh, I have to go to my workout, gets me into this good feeling space every Monday now, that no matter what, I have to do my 10 a.m. workout, and the workout makes me like this, puts me into this sonic mode, and I get sped up to do the rest of my week. Um, and when I did that, when I made that 10 a.m. Monday time for my workout, another wonderful thing that happened was that I'm actually getting coached by these amazing mentors from Connect Coaching, and I'm part of the team. So when I'm part of the team decided that every Monday we're going to have a goal setting session. And this goal setting session just came in, I would feel came in my lap. That's how I want to believe it, because it was set at 12 p.m. on Monday. Now, that was exactly the time that it takes me to take my shower at the gym, come back home, get relaxed, get my coffee, and get sit in front of my computer and say, hello, I start my day. And I sit with my team. They're like about 6 more people, 7 more people sitting with us in that room. And the third beautiful thing that comes is that since these coaches have been trained with Tad James, their way of doing the session is very NLP, meaning that they literally use like the swish method and those kind of ways to get us into alignment with our goals. And so there's a mini meditation where we hover over, like we actualize our goals. And this is just a gist of it, and we get into a space of seeing them done on Friday. So we're sitting on Monday, we're seeing them on that date on Friday, and seeing it all happening in our timeline. And we get to, lock it in like a car door, or, whatever way we want to. And it's beautiful because I think that when I said to myself that I'm going to set a point for myself on every Monday morning to make my Mondays powerful, other powerful things started coming in my Monday. Now, after that session, can you even like imagine a human to feel like other than motivated? I think the work, getting up, sending the kids to school, it gives me exact time then to go to the gym, gives me really good time to come back home and also take a shower and get it in front of my team, and everybody's pumping each other up and like, we can do this, amazing goals. It just sets you up. So that's what I just want to put in, that when we say yes to ourselves and take action, the be, do, and have, right? When we take action, it literally takes us into this quantum leaping space. Should we be open to it? If I was a person who didn't think this was a blessing, right, that the gym got locked in, I would have made it like, oh, I have to go to the gym. Then maybe other things that came in would be feel like labor as well, right? But then when self-discipline is something that makes you feel like you are saying yes to yourself rather than a laborsome job. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I really agree, and I think it's really powerful, isn't it, when you think about it? Because I think, like you said, you've carved out this time to go to take your kids to school, you're going to the gym, and you're doing your podcasts. And I think, like you said, it's these you're showing up and you're taking action, and that be do have, and that manifesting, the positive things and your goals, and seeing them happen, and then acting on, taking action on moving towards those goals. I think is really important. I think that's how you get things done, because you set a target in mind, you take action, and you consistently act forward towards that. And I think also, by the sounds of it, you're around positive people who are supporting you in what you're doing. And I think that's a major thing as well. Having people who stand by you, believe in you, and they're working towards the same thing as well. And I think that's how you also gain momentum, and
Mm,
working out, going to the gym, and sticking to the routine can be difficult. But I think, that's how you grow, and you push yourself into that, that unknown area, because we sometimes fear what we don't know. We fear the unknown. We fear new situations. So by doing those things, it becomes easier, if that makes sense.
mm, mm, mm. I mean, definitely. See, you talked about pushing yourself. A lot of people, and I was there too. I mean, yes, I was there. I put up my hand. Before all of this, I was a person who just thought of going to the gym or having that kind of a lifestyle where everything is organized, or having a lifestyle, you could say, where I'm around positive people. I imagined it more than doing something about it. I do feel I did something and it was very incremental. So I do believe that incremental growth is important for us to kind of at least go and see what we do like. I think that incremental growth, let's say I started my podcast because I realized that I'm a person, this was about, you know, this, from COVID onwards, I decided to go with my podcast, even though just before COVID, I was about to make a film, which didn't work out because of COVID. A part of me said, okay, the film's not going to work out and I'm stuck in COVID. What can I do? I went on your podcast and I already, felt like one day I will be podcasting. And it was you just saying, go for it, right? When you said go for it, one of the things I understood is that I am a person who does like coming from within, but I do need somebody to go like, you can do this. Basically, I realized that I like positive people around me, and Princess Nala has decided to make appearance. So, hi, Princess Nala. So, what the thing is that I think she needs attention. When I
It's a lovely
decided to
cat.
quit casting, she's a beautiful cat, like British short hair.
Oh,
Actually, no,
too
Scottish
lovely.
fold. My daughter just corrected me the other day
Is
because
it
we wanted a British
Scottish?
short hair and it's Scottish fold. She's got the folded ears. So, I realize that I'm a person who likes positive people around me. I'm a person who likes a little bit of push. I'm self-inspired, but I also like motivation from my outside, right? And so when I realized I like that, I incrementally started doing, as I say, if you do 1% every day, it becomes into a compound interest of the person you perceive to be, right? So I started getting into podcasting, and that was a good start for me, right? But if I didn't say that, take that little leap, I wouldn't have realized that how what I do like. Meaning that if we don't go into getting to know what we don't like we don't go into something going like, oh my God, what if I fail at this? And what if I was like a person who goes like, oh, I'm going to podcasting, and what if I fail? What if this doesn't work out? And like it's too risky. And I would just sit back, right? But no, I did that incremental move, right? It was that little incremental move and getting into podcasting that now, looking back, I think it's been what, 2020 to 4 years ago. Looking
Hmm.
back 4 years ago, I now know because of that little deep I don't know that what I do like. So I'm creating an action what I do like. Meaning, as you said, you pointed it out, thank you, that positive environments, going and setting myself into this time, this self-discipline sort of a organized way. And I am liking it. Before it was like, hmm, I would wish to be like that one day. Let me just focus on my podcasting. But now there's podcasting and everything I'm doing, even the house chores and everything, and it's happening, and I slow down when I need to. So that's also part of my self-discipline, to slow down when I need to, because this cannot go on an empty fuel, right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I think like what you said when you first came on my podcast and we first met, it
Mm.
wasn't even video, was it? It was on audio, and I remember like not even having equipment and just talking into the phone,
Mm.
and it was kind of like can't remember. It was an app, and you could match repeat. You could both go in it. It was like times for an hour, and we were talking on that. And like I said to you, just do it. You're more capable of doing it. And I think sometimes we need someone to say that to us, or we need like a coach almost. We need like someone to keep us accountable and someone to give us a bit of a push in the right direction. And through you doing the podcast and branching out into podcasting, there's
Mm.
you're growing in different areas and you're learning different things and you're building that momentum through doing it. And you're listening, you're talking to somebody, you're having certain conversations, you're talking to different people, and through all of that process and that compound effect, as you mentioned, that 1%, every day or every week, you're growing and you're learning all these different aspects about other people, about yourself, and you're gaining
Mm,
confidence in those areas, and independence, and networking with people. It's
mm,
all growth in the long term, isn't it? And I think, you can only grow from doing those things. And that's something that, I've seen you grow massively in the world of podcasting and in coaching, and, everything
mm,
that you do. You've done, Instagram lives, you've done courses online, you've done like Instagram courses, and you consistently stuck to that. That's not something I've never done an Instagram live course before. I've never, and you've done that, and you've done lots of different things, and you've gone to
mm,
you've gone to seminars. Do you know what I mean? Like all these different things,
mm.
and you've applied it to your life. And it's like it's like podcasting is that little seed that's kind of blossomed and grown into all these different areas. And I think it's tremendous what you're doing, and it's I think you're doing great. No, I mean it. And, I'm really grateful to have you as a friend and to have these conversations with you. And I think, the only way is up, you know?
I'm grateful. I'm grateful that, you have been on this journey with me and you see that, right? I mean, we probably haven't spoken in this time, I think for the most of this year, but there's this knowing, right? Thank you for like, all the description of what I'm doing. I was like, is anybody even seeing what I'm up to? But I was so like in my evolution process that I didn't see like, Adam's noticing. So thank you. Yes, I have been into learning. I've realized I actually did this test on me on myself. I was actually part of this group that way we did this value testing, and these are values such as gratitude and humanity and all those kind of the makeup of who we are. And for me, what stood out number one was the love for learning. That came on top, and then there was gratitude and spirituality and all that. So the love for learning was right on top, and I was like, makes sense, because Adam, like literally, I was saying this to a person the other day. He's there like, where can we find you? I mean, I'm like in training rooms, right? Um, so right now, the coaching company I'm with, I'm part of the team as a podcast producer. I'm doing podcast production for them. Since I'm part of the team, I get to be a part of every training that comes through. So I'm getting all this business training because they do business training for hypnotherapists and anybody with NLP background. So it's a very different kind of a business training. It's very Tad James kind of a way of telling you how to get to the heart of the person when you're selling rather than buy this, how to do your brand wheel in a certain way, how to write your offer in a way that's connecting with the human. And one of the most beautiful things I realize with every training is that, wow, I wouldn't want it any other way. I did want to learn how business works, how money is, circulated, because that was a part of me which I always thought it's separate from me, right? I thought, I will learn that one day, and I rather just focus on just manifesting and all of this will come to me. But literally, I am in the doing now. And I'm doing it with something I love. So learning is something I love. All these trainings, like I've did the recently I did a 3-day business accelerator with the Connect coaching. And it was 3 days. We went from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 9 to 5, and we get to know where we at, what we want for our business, and how do we create an offer, how do we create a webinar, and then we just get into it, right? Get that customer, get that person in. And, how do we start doing it rather than just thinking, I'm just making my business plan? So while you're developing it, you're also executing it. And I love that, because I'm that kind of person who can't just be like, I'm working on paper and one day my business will develop and I'll do this. They're like, get the audience, or your demographic, to at least taste what you have to offer. So if you're at level 1 of creating a business, get them to experience level 1. The feedback you get from them is just going to be good for you. So I've done things like women's circles as an outcome of that with a proper business plan. I am learning how to create my own frameworks. So you know how people go like the hypnotizing method, or they go like the emotional intelligence frequency, those kind of frameworks. I'm literally learning how to make those frameworks. And why am I telling you this? It's because this way of going in training rooms and learning with every training that I'm going is exactly the jigsaw puzzle I needed. You and I both know that I believe in myself a lot, and I believe that, one day amazing things will come for us. But this has put me into like, get the work done. Okay, what is the actual formula to get this done? And I wouldn't have it any other way, because I'm a fun-loving person. I love to enjoy and laugh and do everything like that. And I wouldn't be in these trainings if they were just like, get this done, right? Uh, so yeah, I'm enjoying this training myself. I've also put myself in an NLP practitioner course, which I'm going to be completing the exam for. So I'll be an NLP practitioner for timeline therapy, positive psychology, and NLP, of course. Um, and I think, there's no end to it. You speak to me a few months later, I'll be like, I'm in a training room, I'm doing this. And it wouldn't have opened if I didn't start the podcast. All of this wouldn't have opened. So I want people out there to understand that you have to say yes to that one thing, just like a domino effect. And we've talked about it so many times, Adam, and I'm so happy because I'm feeling I've seen that video online. I don't know who it is, but
Yeah.
like they show you the actual domino standing in front of you, like the tiniest domino, and then they're like these tall dominoes, right to the height of like a bit higher than, a normal human height, and how they just fall because of that little domino. So if you don't do that little thing that sparks joy within you, it has to spark joy. It can't be like, I am doing that because I have to. That's another beautiful thing I learned is the towards and away from. So you can do something and go like, I don't want that bad situation happening, so I'm doing this for myself. So I don't want that bad situation. In saying so, you're still looking at the bad situation to get into the good situation. So that's away from. The towards way of being is, okay, bad situation, you're there, fine. I'm going into my evolution. Not in resistance or like this feeling of like, because this happened, I'm going to go into it. Or like, I don't want that thing to happen again. You're just so like in flow of going like this vision rather than this and this. So there's a pull and tug, the towards and away from. So and that's something I learned in LP and I love it.
I think that's amazing, like that what you just said, that tug and pulling away from, because I think, ultimately what we think we attract, don't we? If we, we attract what we think and feel about. So if we're saying we don't want something, you're going to attract more of that. So by saying, I want this, and it's kind of like recognizing what you want and what you don't want and separating the two from by the sounds of it. And I think, everything you just said, like going to all the training you're doing and, editing content for people's podcasts and the coaching and the courses and the seminars, is all fantastic. And I think, like you said, you've got to apply yourself and you've got to take action to it. Like you said, when you said you did that 3-day course and you learned
Three-day
these different
business
things,
accelerator course. Yeah.
that course, and it's okay having something on paper, which is great, you're having a plan, But you've got to
Mm.
execute on that plan, like you said. You've got to then see other people's feedback. You've got to put it into practice, and that's the only way, you grow, and the only way you learn, like you said. And I think sometimes, I know when I was a teenager, I used to hate starting out being a beginner. I used to feel frustrated with myself and I used to feel like crap. But you've got to go through all those motions because, everyone has a starting point. Everybody, whether that's doing a course, whether that's starting a podcast, whether that's going to the gym, everyone has to start from day one. And, even highly successful people, they've all had to go through that. They've all had to train. They've all had to practice and start out. And you can't skip that process if you want to kind of
Mm.
work your way up those steps. And I think what you're doing is great because you're gaining all this experience and you're putting in the reps to, do you know what I mean? You're building on on your craft. And I think, like you said, with the dominoes, that compound effect, one thing knocks into another thing, and then it just, it continues. And regardless of what area we
Mm.
go into. And I mean, that's something to be really mindful of because
Mm.
I think society, we click a button and we get an Amazon order the next day. People want that instant gratification, and there's that
Instant gratification. Yeah.
and there's that delayed gratification where things take time. But I think it,
Mm.
it works out far better having that because I've put in the time and the effort and the energy, and I deserve this. That makes
Mm.
sense.
Oh, perfect sense. I was taking in each and every word. And this is reminding me of the fact that, there are hard days. We all have hard days. We're not superhumans. But I think when you decide that you are going to speak the story of what you are becoming rather than who you were, more, like speak more about what you're becoming, it's contagious. It's contagious. If we see another person, or I mean, for you and I think the videos that we watch, the TEDx talks and Grant Cardone or something like people who impress us a lot, um, we tend to look at, this is a human just like me, a brain just like me. I mean, not exactly, but still, it's got hands like me, got skin like me. Then what is it that this person is thinking here that is setting them into the person they are, less grand human being that's like, I do this, I have this much money, I take care of the homeless or whatever impact they're making in the society and whatever impresses us about their way of doing things. And that impressing is something that's a message for us. Maybe there's a part of us which wants to know how to get there, but we don't know because we're in a very dark place ourselves, or in a very like stuck state, like most of us do. The greatest of people get stuck, right? That's why they have spiritual mentors and everything, and we know this, that the biggest millionaires have mentors. And what is the idea of a mentor in that kind of a situation? The mentor is only a guide, guiding to what you think is missing here within you, like what is in there in your neurology that needs to evolve, that needs to grow, that can be created so that your neurons get to a place where you're like, aha, I get what Grant Cardone did. Let me apply that to myself. So modeling amazing people is the way to go for it. And because they are showing us a mirror of what is missing within us. And maybe we like it. So missing in the sense that, okay, let me see what they did and see if that works for me. So one of the most beautiful things about changing our thoughts and becoming the person that we vision to be when we look at these great people is that modeling is the way to go for it. There's already a structure out there. You can make it a bit hybrid after you've actually followed that model in a congruent and consistent way. Congruency for me basically is making it part of you. You're not, you're like in alignment with what their vision is. Once you're in alignment with a person you want to model, let's say Grant Cardone, you just go with like, okay, how does he live his life? What does he do? What are the values he shares? Okay, let me see. Let me apply that to my life. And I think we do need a bit of modeling in our lives, because we can't just read a book and go like, do this and this and that. For people, and you and I, we need to look at the human and go like, look in their eyes, like even if they're on a video, and go like, "Ooh, he's actually in the world doing this amazing thing. How can I do it?" What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that's completely true. And I think, like you said, it's important to have positive role models and mentors. And I think, like you said, sometimes they shine a light um in, we can see ourselves in them, and or sometimes, we can learn through their mistakes. We can sometimes identify with areas of our life and their life, or things that they've been through. And I think it's important to take guidance and people's lessons. Like you say, Grant Cardone, there's many other people. There's,
Yes,
I like Joe Rogan and the
yes,
life,
yes.
he
Good stuff for
lives.
podcasters.
Yeah. And yeah.
Yes.
And he had to start from somewhere, and he's worked his way up. And I think he's worked on building sites. He didn't take his podcast too serious at the start, and it just,
Mm.
went from there. And I think, it's important to have people who you can look up to. And I think sometimes, if you think, I think also with mentors, if you think like, okay, well, they started here, and they then reached to here, and then they've built up. And
Mm.
you know
Mm.
it if anyone's ever like lacking confidence, or they've not had, a positive role model growing up, or, I don't know, it gives you hope knowing you can build and become someone or
Yes.
something, or create something, from
Mm.
scratch, because that other person's done it. And it doesn't mean to say, that you can't do something. And I think it's important to have that.
Mm. Humanizing them, rather
Yeah.
than just watching them like a passive audience on TV and going like, hmm, you know. I felt I was never, we did a lot of media studies when I did my media degree, and one of the things we used to focus on, and it's coming to me, is active and passive audiences, right? And at first, I was always an active audience, so I never understood the passive audience. And what they meant was that the study says that, a lot of people are just watching things like in a trance. They're not ready to speak up or say anything about it, or go like, this ad is so wrong, or like how we used to watch. I mean, people don't watch TV that much now, but growing up, when we used to watch TV, I mean, passive would be like, oh, this ad is the way it is. If they're selling a lot of oily chips, then so what? I have nothing to do with it. But I think I was always an active audience. I was always like, why is that reporter recording a poor kid in Africa who is starving? Why can't they just give him water? Things like those, things that tell you that there's a human behind the camera, and they're just watching the human plight and not doing something about it. That never resonated with me. So what I'm
Mm,
trying to get in this to connect with is that I always feel like the media needs to show more and more real stories, right? And that's where the untold story told comes in too. One of the ideas behind the Untold Story Told podcast, which I have, as you know as well, is to humanize the stories of these great people out there. So when I get a coach, or I get a stunt woman, or I get a woman who's been through some trauma with her dad, I get her to tell the audience about who she was when she was younger growing up, what she felt, what was her everyday life like, what does she like to eat, how does she feel about certain situations. Because when we understand how humans, how they're experiencing the world, the touch, the feel, the seeing, then we don't just look at them as this blank 2D. We get to experience them at a 5D, all these great people. And then you go like, oh, I can see myself in you. And so if I can see myself in you, what's the next step? Let me see what I can do from your story that I have just heard to bring some change in me to make myself better in my habits, in some patterns that I've been following, some way, shape, or form to become a better person because you've shown me something within me that if you can do it, I can do it. You know, when somebody tells their untold story, I think it's so powerful. Like they tell something that they've never told somebody about. It first gets them to get rid of the burden they have been carrying, which they didn't know. Because when I speak to these in the women's circles, one of the women that I spoke to, this is an interesting story. She's like, there's something I need to let go of, but I don't think I'm ready to let go of it yet. And I realized that, in my mind, I made this little note that there are some of us who like to hold on to something that we know is paining us, but we like to sit on that pain. But it's until that little catalyst or little the metamorphosis point, that point where you actually say out your story, till when it's out, you're like, oh, you know, I was holding on to something that I really didn't need to hold on to. And when you say that story to another human, the human goes like, she's sharing something with me that she's never shared with somebody before. Wow, let me be present. Let me get into this mode of holding space for this human. It's beautiful. I believe that there are hard moments in this whole journey, but without connection, without the support of each other, without having these tribes, without sitting down and going like, tell me your story, what are you going through? And still doing it without judgments in safe spaces, we 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 cannot progress. It will be not progressing, it will be regressing if we think that we can make all this money and we can do it alone without collaboration, without talking to people, without the work you do, Adam. Like you deal with homeless people. That's humbling yourself to the level of like, I was talking to you about pre podcast. Like if I don't have my toothpaste, I go like, ooh, there's no toothpaste in the house, and then I forget to get it, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't brush my teeth. Well, should I use the soap like my dad used to? And we cannot even imagine what it feels to be on the street with no shelter, with no showering, no food, and yeah, I will let you to take the mic from here because I am in awe with the kind of work you do.
No, thank you, Zad. That really, really means a lot. And, I'm in awe with what you do as well. And, like, I'll I'll go into a few different bits, but yeah, the people, that I see, on a weekly basis, I won't go into too much detail, but, they're in different circumstances. And, like what you touch base on was, listening and seeing people and having that space and being, positive,
Mm,
unconditional positive regard and, and listening to people. And there's another word for it as well, I forgot. And, you're seeing that person and you're holding the space. And sometimes people have never had that before. They've not had that being listened to properly, being seen for probably so long. And you're giving them that positive, unconditional regard. And, it's those little positive seeds that then I think help that person to grow from what I've seen. And that, takes a bit of time, but, through them just being able to open up and talk to you, that because a lot of the time, people in that area of life, they're judged by society, they're judged by people, and they're not usually seen sometimes. Um, but behind that lens, it's like a layer of an onion, really. They've had a lot of things happen, depending on the person, and there's a reason why sometimes why they're in that place. Um, no fault of their own sometimes. But yeah, it's very humbling, makes you think differently, I think, changes your perspective. But you
mm,
said what I've encountered on podcasts, sometimes you are talking to somebody as a guest and you might ask them a question, or you might just hold that space and have that silence, and it allows people to think and articulate things, and they might say something like you said that they've been holding, but you're
mm,
you're allowing them to do that.
yeah. And maybe somebody's never allowed them. Maybe they've never had anyone who they could feel was safe enough, or a time that when they want to actually share has come, but there's nobody asked them, nobody's like said, would you like to? You know, because I think I've realized this, like I can ask people uncomfortable questions. One of the things that I can do is just to like get them to think about something. But because you never know how a question, if powerfully asked, you can literally ask it very powerfully. So the way the tone goes, it can sound like a command, or like, did you have any, did your mom ever come in your room when you were, getting ready, and did that, affect you? Or you could go like, a bit like a question. You could go like, did your mom come to your room when you were getting ready, and that, had an effect on you when you were a kid? Or you could go like, did your mom come in your room when you were a kid? And, did that affect you? Did that have any effect on you when you were in the room? So there's a way of saying the same thing. The question first needs to be powerful, and then the way, the tone. I've realized that that's actually what I wanted to get in. The tone of how you speak can change the other person's perception too, because we speak on podcasts, we speak on the mic, our thing is voice first, and then the rest of it comes in. And I think holding space requires you to also become this person who is aware of how they're opening the space to them, the comfort you make them feel without, because one of the most beautiful things I think your podcast, Parrsitivity, I think with your client testimonials and also with my testimonials, what's come forward is that they feel comfortable talking about uncomfortable things. And that's powerful, because not many of us are comfortable talking about uncomfortable things. And I think everyone should create something in their life where they can be there for others in that way.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think that that is so true, isn't it? I think, and that's something that I have recognized, and that's something I've recognized on your show as well. And I think we've just got this.
Mm.
We create this good space, and we tune in, and I think connect with the guest. And I think it's not, we might be thousands of miles away or whatever, but still
Mm.
we connect with that person deeply and allow them to feel safe and respected and
Mm.
trusted ultimately as well to share and to have a conversation and to have those uncomfortable topics or conversations. I think that's something
Mm.
that we are quite valued in having.
Mm.
But and also say on that note,
Mm.
because it's just getting late for my time. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
is where can people find what you're doing and your website and that sort of
Yes.
stuff?
So right now, they could go onto my Instagram, the Untold Story Told, and they could also go on my Facebook. I've become very active on my Facebook, and level 3 would be getting active on my LinkedIn. But for now, it's the Facebook, which is Saliha Wazirzada, SALIHA I'm glad I said that in one mouthful. And sometimes I do wonder, like, what's this name? Is it my name? And then the Untold Story Told on Instagram. Thank you so much, Adam, for today. It's been amazing. Your time, 11 p.m., my time, 9 a.m., straight from morning to night. Uh, we'll call it a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been amazing. I've been so excited to be back with you that I thought I'll talk about a few like moments where I go a bit like sad and all that, but this is what I feel and I'm sticking to it. I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for everyone listening today. I feel we all need to work with this idea that, in this AI world, connection is very important, the human connection. Never stop being there for each other. Be there for each other in hold space, or buy somebody a McDonald's meal when you're in a line. Do some random acts of kindness, but be there, you know. Open the door for the person who comes to the door to preach and say that, we should be a Christian today or something, just open the door for them. See where the conversation goes. Just do it. Do something like you've never done before.
Oh, I
Like a
love
friend
it.
used to say once, like sometimes just get up in the morning, putting on that shirt. Normally you put your right hand in. This time try to put your left hand in first and see how that feels. Your brain goes like, "Ooh, something new can happen." So yeah, let's wrap it
Definitely.
up.
No, I love it. And, I'm really grateful to have you on the podcast. And it's always a blast to talk with you. And, I love our kind of conversations. And I think, like you said, it's important to do kind things to people that we don't know and to make a difference or, people's days. And, I wish you continued success in everything you're doing. And I'll share everything in the description. I'm grateful to have you as a friend, Sally. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adam. Good night
You're
and good
welcome.
morning, Australia. Good night, UK, and good morning,
Good night.
Australia.
Good night. Good morning.